She doesn't know this, but I admire her. I admire her like she cannot imagine. I have been following her steps. She is an incredible woman. I always say that you can be a businesswoman, a successful businesswoman, but what differentiates a businesswoman from a woman who leads, it's her ability not only to be successful, but to share her success with other women. And I'm talking about Celeste Warren. She is the VP and Global Diversity and Inclusion Officer of Merck. We are talking about a Fortune 69 company with more than 74,000 employees in more than 70 countries around the world. I'm mentioning her name, and I'm even getting goosebumps. Celeste, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Can you hear me? Well, excellent. I'm so pleased to be here and join everyone for this event. And I had a chance to hear you talking with Jessica, and it sounds like it has been a wonderful conversation this whole day. So congratulations on a successful event.
Thank you. It has been incredible because all of the participants have shared best practices when it comes to their respective industries. Deborah, when it comes to law, Tonya, when it comes to economics. Wow, Michelle, when it comes to employment in Florida, and now Jessica, when it comes to one of the largest employers in Florida. And we needed to bring also one of the largest employers around the world and a major leader when it comes to the business world. And I told you this before. I did major research on you. I think I watched every single video out there where you appear talking about inclusion and about diversity. And I need to start by asking you a particular question. In every single video, I believe that you spoke about how imperative is to address women inclusion when it comes to promote business growth. You also stated, in basically every single video that to get the commitment from the CEO is key. Let me ask you, how is women inclusion imperative for Merck, and how has Merck be able to make women inclusion into an imperative?
Well, thank you for the question. We have to take a holistic approach to our diversity and inclusion strategy when it talks about the inclusion of women in particular. And you have to take a multidimensional approach. So first is you have to have a diverse workforce. You have to make sure that your diversity, the diversity in your workforce, for us, it mirrors the diversity in our patient base. And so from a talent acquisition, talent sourcing perspective, we have to make sure that we are going to places where we can recruit female talent into the organization, that we're working with the colleges and universities, going on campus, establishing strong relationships. We just had a meeting this week with Spelman College and one of the prominent HBCUs, historical Black colleges and universities, focusing on women. And a great meeting there with the president and the team there. But you have to establish those relationships with those colleges and universities. You also need to make sure that you're establishing relationships with associations like yours, for example, and you're developing those relationships so you can really understand and get to know the talent that's in the labor market, the female talent that's in the labor market. Next, when you've acquired the women into your organization, you have to think about how you're going to be orienting them to the organization, how you're going to be onboarding them. And so we just instituted recently this year, GD and I, new hire orientation sessions. So it's really important that as people come to the organization around the globe, that they are exposed to our organization's values and standards as it appeals to diversity and inclusion. So we want them to understand what our values and standards are. And so we have this new hire orientation session. And then we have to make sure that the managers, each and every individual manager, is instrumental in welcoming the female talent into their team, because that's where you're seeing the relationship. We also look at talent development and advancement of women. So we have our signature program, the Women's Leadership Program, that we've been conducting for many, many years now. And we've had so many different cohorts of women go through the program that we now have the Women's Leadership Program Alumni Conference, where we bring them back once a year to share, to network, to continue to develop their leadership capabilities. And we've been so pleased to see women going through that program. They're just on fire when they come out, ready to just, hit the world. And then bringing them back for the alumni conference, we get to see how their careers have progressed. They learn and talk to each other and see old friends, and it's just really a wonderful opportunity. We have external partnerships that I talked about, Catalyst, HBA, et cetera. And then I have to highlight the role that sponsorship and mentorship plays that's integrated into our development and advancement programs, especially for women. We want everyone to have mentors, everyone to have that personal board of directors, and very importantly, sponsorship. So in those closed door meetings where they're discussing talent and succession and critical roles and important projects and initiatives, that there's a sponsor there that's talking about the female talent and really advancing them. Retention as well. We have to make sure that our senior leaders understand the issues and the challenges that women face in the workplace, and they're putting retention strategies in place to make sure that we're retaining our female talent. So we talk about that. That helps in creating an inclusive work environment. And then very importantly, you also have to make sure that the women's contributions in the organization to the business are valued, that they're able to bring their functional disciplines, whether that be a scientist or engineer or manufacturing leader or marketing leader, but they're also able to bring those perspectives as a woman, as a mother, as someone who is gay, someone who is disabled, but able to bring those different perspectives that a woman has and bring that to the table as well, so we can bridge the gap between those women that may not be experiencing those optimal health outcomes that we want them to experience. And then lastly, you have to close that gap externally. So we're doing all those things internally, but we also have to make sure that we're looking outside of the organization and addressing those women's issues such as maternal health and breast cancer, and closing the gap that happens in equity when it comes to health equity externally. So you do those things internally, and you also have to look at externally as well. So that's basically kind of how we take a holistic view at it.
Can I go now?
Yes.
So, wow, if you are new to diversity and inclusion, Celeste just gave you and provided us with a roadmap of success when it comes to promote women inclusion within the company. First of all, she was very clear that one of the first steps is to create strategic partnerships. That's crucial. Also, to have or integrate managers into the equation to make sure that they know that they need to focus their efforts on having balanced teams and to promote the inclusion of women. Also, the orientation session is always critical because that's the first time then this new employee is open to learn about your company, and it's critical that in that precise moment he or she gets the understands what's your position on the inclusion of women from the get-go. Also, it is critical to have leadership programs. Just Merck, as Advent Health, have great programs when it comes to women, empowering women. Wow. Also, how critical is to have mentors and sponsors. That's critical, period. And you said something that it really resonated within me, and it's the fact that women need to have a personal board of directors, but you cannot sit and wait for HR to create that personal board of directors. You need to take ownership of your career and create that personal board of directors. And also, you also said something that for me, it touches me personally because I see how this affects women. Companies need to recognize the impact of women in the company, and companies also need to provide women with visibility. If the company doesn't provide visibility, the women that are coming behind won't see that other women have been able to succeed and won't feel inspired to grow within your organization. And another topic that she also mentioned was that it's critical not to close the gap internally, but also externally. Wow, that was a master class right there. And you mentioned something that it was really critical that we need to stop and listen to this. Um, we need to listen to our working mothers. I always say, and I need to make a parenthesis here, not all women are mothers. We need to, as leaders in our companies, we need to understand that not because you're a woman, you are a mother. But when COVID hit, one of the most affected ones were mothers because they had to juggle work, kids, pets, parents, and everything else in between. What did you face when you saw that all this were affecting women, mothers in particular, and what did Merck do in lieu of this situation?
We saw external research and talking with some of my colleagues in different companies. What we were seeing externally was that women were opting out of their responsibilities, as far as their jobs. And a lot of women, we were seeing this mass exodus of women leaving corporations. And so we said, we don't want to wait until we're starting to see that, but let's really look inside our four walls and find out what's happening with women within our company. We conducted focus groups with women across the globe within our organization. And what we found were some very interesting things that would help us to help the women within our organization to manage through this extremely challenging time, as you said, of balancing their home and their professional lives. And so we heard some really, really interesting things. One, around child and family care. It was mentioned in all of the focus groups as a challenge for women in their current working situation. And so, having to have to make sure that their children, if they're in school, that they're prepared for their virtual learning. And it was having impact on the work environment and also impact on their mental health and their stress. And so that was really, really playing on them. And also, too, when we think about ourselves and having that unstructured, alone time, that me time that we need as women to reflect, to energize ourselves and power ourselves back up. And so they told us that they were having challenges in that space. The second thing they said was they had heard, great messages from senior leaders about the importance of taking care of themselves and making sure that, that they as employees were taking care of themselves, were prioritizing and doing what they needed to stay healthy. But there was a little bit of a disconnect with their immediate management. And so, the immediate manager might have working styles that might be different from the woman as she's trying to balance all of these things. And so it was something that we needed to really make sure that we were providing managers with tools and resources, education and awareness around how they needed to be working with their female employees. Third, while many of the women reported challenges of balancing work and home life, they did say very positive things about some of the things and resources that we were providing as a company. So we were glad to see that, to hear that. And then they talked a little bit about, thinking towards the future and what should the work environment be like for them to be successful. And many of them said that, it really would be nice if it was an ideal work situation is a hybrid work situation where I can, work virtually if I need to, and then also work in the office as well. So that flexibility is going to play an important role in our strategies around that workplace and workforce of the future. But we were very, very glad to hear about the resources that we were providing to women and our employees. It was helping them. And our benefits centered around three areas: well-being, caregiving, and flexibility. And so in the area of well-being, we wanted to, of course, make sure that all of our benefits, that they covered anything that was needed, from the standpoint of COVID-19 care, telemedicine, making sure that people could avail themselves to that, because we weren't going into the doctor's offices. We just weren't feeling comfortable doing that, especially during the high points of the pandemic. And so we were providing telemedicine. We made sure that our flu shots were covered, of course. And so making sure that people were staying healthy, especially when it got to that flu season, to make sure that your immune system wasn't going down. We provided financial support and mental health support as well, and then resources for living too in the area of well-being, helping them with in-the-moment support and counseling. In caregiving, we provided not just help for them from the standpoint of being a parent, so helping them with childcare and backup childcare, because we know that was an issue for parents of young children, but also remote tutoring as well, to help them from the standpoint of helping their children with their studies and helping them with classes and all of that. And then we also had caregiving concierge service. And so we also know that we're not just helping our children, but some of us are living in households where our parents are there, and we're helping family members also as well. So providing that service when it comes to caregiving, where the woman is at the center of all of that. And then flexibility. We provide flexible work arrangements, part-time, job sharing, flex time, compressed work, summer hours as well. And then also with vacation, because many folks weren't taking all of the vacation that they normally would during a normal year that they did in the pandemic year. So we relaxed our vacation policy, where you had to, if you had any overflow extra vacation days, you had to take them during a certain period of time at the beginning of the following year. Well, we extended that time until the end of the year, so people could carry on their vacation where they didn't have the opportunity to do that during the pandemic year. So those were just a few of the things in the area of well-being, caregiving, and flexibility that we were able to do especially for our female employees who so desperately needed the support during this pandemic year.
Wow, a major list of benefits. It's impressive what you have been doing. And what it's very interesting is it only needed one action to listen.
Yes.
It was simple and complicated at the same time, but you just listened to what they needed and then you adopted and adapted to your company and moved forward. Wow. And I know that you have done a tremendous work for all your employees around the world now, during COVID. But, and as I said before, companies are not only committed to women inclusion when it comes to their company, their employees, but also when it comes to women-owned organizations. It's critical that our companies evaluate what they're doing out there when it comes to women-owned organizations. What is Merck doing when it comes to women-owned companies like mine?
Oh, we are so proud of the work that we've been doing in the area of our supplier diversity. We have a very robust global supplier diversity program where we partner and ensure that our leaders and our managers are allocating spend to, and as far as procuring products and services to small minority, women, veteran, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and disability-owned business enterprises. And so in 2020, we're very, very proud to say that our spend with women-owned businesses exceeded $600 million in the United States and more than 70 million outside of the United States. And this, in the United States, when we talk about this spend for women-owned businesses, the benefits it's just like a ripple effect, because when companies engage in these partnerships with women-owned businesses, you're making an impact on the economy. And we know that when we spend money with women-owned businesses, that you're making an economic impact. We know that we made an economic impact of $1.3 billion when it came to our partnerships with women-owned businesses. And then we know also that these women-owned businesses, which, by the way, are the largest growing entrepreneurs, women are the largest growing entrepreneurs across the globe. But we know that those companies that they're leading are doing the most when it comes to the labor market and hiring and jobs. And so we also know that by supporting women-owned businesses in 2020, we helped more than 8,500 jobs that were created and or sustained by our women-owned suppliers. And so you are putting food on the table of families by investing and spending with women-owned businesses. And I would encourage those companies that are not doing that haven't taken a look at this, that they're doing this because you are making such an impact on the economy of the country that you're in, and it's putting jobs out there in the labor market, and it's so critically important. And we can't do this work that we do without partnership with national and global advocacy groups as well. And so that helps us to stay in tune with different organizations and advocacy groups that help us to build those relationships. And then also in order to have a successful program like this, we have to put in place other tools and other programs to help us to build a world-class supplier diversity program and to ensure that there's growth, there's sustainability, and then also increasing their competitiveness of these women-owned businesses. And so, we partner with different organizations. We conduct a summit where we invite the suppliers so they can learn from each other, learn from experts in the field, and we invite various different other organizations as well. So it's something that we're very, very proud of in the work that we do with our suppliers, especially our women-owned suppliers. And they are phenomenal.
And I have to say that I'm a vendor, and Merck has always been there for us. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see this pin. This
Yes.
is the W pin. It's only given to those organizations, those companies that have become W certified. And as you know, your Puerto Rico market has been recognized as one of the top preferred employers for women. So the reason that I took my brooch off, it's because I'm gonna send you one so that you can work with very, very proud, because your team in Puerto Rico has been excelling when it comes to inclusion of women. So this is going
Yes,
on your way.
yes. And,
So
and shout out to all of my colleagues in Puerto Rico MSD. They have been doing a fabulous job in diversity, inclusion. They are so passionate with all the work that they do. So thank you. They make my job a little easier.
yes, indeed. Let me show it to you. If you go to Puerto Rico, you will see this there at their entrance. So let me ask you a question. I know we are basically the same age, but let's imagine that I'm like, let's imagine that I'm your younger sister, okay? And I just held a new position in a major corporation. And what will be that one hack, that one tactic, that one advice that you would give me to help my organization promote the inclusion of women?
I would say that in order to create a culture that is extremely inclusive of women, that promotes women, that advances women, that respects and values women, you have to look at all aspects of the culture. You look at your vision and your values, which describes behaviors and mindsets that the company values. You have to look at practices, not just policies that are written on pieces of paper, but what are the actual practices that managers and leaders are putting in place that really help to engage women. You have to look at those traits and those skills of leaders. You look at your communications. Do they demonstrate how we're valuing women? You look at the company narrative and make the storytelling activities, and that helps to shape the culture to really make sure that you're valuing women. And then of course the environment and the place when we work, and how are we collaborating? How are we making decisions that are helping to advance and value those contributions of women in the workplace? So I would say that you look holistically at your culture in all of those different areas to really dissect them and really peel that onion back and say, do all of these components of our culture really demonstrate how we value the contributions of women in the workplace, in our workplace? And only when you do that assessment are you really going to be able to see how well you're doing and then where some of the challenges are.
Like I said before, Celeste just gave us a master class on diversity and inclusion. This was for real a master class. Celeste, thank you so much for sharing your best practices. Like I said before, you are a true woman who leads, who shares her success with other women. Thank you.